Alright, so let's check out one of Samsung's cheapest phones, or not one of the cheapest phones, but it's up there. The Galaxy A25. You can find this for around like 200 bucks. Very, very cheap. And let's go ahead and check it out. I wanted to compare it to some of my older flagships as well. You guys know. Alright, so let's get this out. If I can. They make these boxes so difficult to open. Alright. Here we go. And this box seems pretty small, so they're not putting the charger in the box either. It's USB Type-C to Type-C. It's a SIM injection tool. Wow, so they don't give you the charger in the box even on the cheap phones now. Alright, this one is the yellow one and it looks pretty cool. Oh wow. It's got like this little texture to it. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's pretty nice. I like how they, like, man, budget phones like a couple years ago, like 4 years ago, never used to look this good. But yeah, looks really nice. It's an all plastic phone as well too, even though it looks like it's metal right here, but it's actually plastic. There's no IP rating on here. Oh, there's a headphone jack on here, pretty sweet. And you do have SD card support on this phone as well too. We got our 3 cameras on here, and look at that really big indent right here. Oh, it kind of like does it right here too. That's pretty nice. I think the hardware on here is actually really good. Doesn't really feel cheap even though it's an all plastic phone. Alright, let's cut it on and I'm going to set this guy up and let's see what it's all about. Alright guys, we are in, and first impressions is it's actually a pretty smooth phone for the most part. I think Samsung's Exynos processors have actually come a long way, because it used to be that these phones were kind of like laggy a little bit, and I'm noticing like very minimal lag here, so that's really good. For the most part, even in the Google Now page, this is still super smooth. So I think thanks to One UI and then Samsung making the Exynos processors a little bit better here. But let's go ahead and jump into the display here. So this display, it is a pretty decent display for the most part. It's a Super AMOLED display, and it is actually 120 Hertz as well too, and it is 1000 nits for the peak brightness, which I think is actually pretty good for a budget phone. And then it's a 6.5 inch display. It's 1080p 396 for the PPI. Actually really good specs. The display is actually pretty sharp. There's no discoloration. Viewing angles are really nice. I'm telling you, like, these budget phones, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, man, it was nothing close to this in terms of quality for these displays. But as you can see, there's a huge bezel right here. I mean, that's just crazy. And then we do have the old school wire drop notch here, and again, this is what I expect for, you know, this price point, which is perfectly fine, right? And the display quality is it's really good, guys. I can't really knock anything about the display. Even outdoors when I was taking pictures, I could still see everything. It was still bright enough. So I think the display on here is actually fairly good for the most part. 120 Hertz, super smooth on here. So I'm actually really digging the display. Again, you know, I'm not going to pick at the obvious stuff because it is a budget phone, right? Let's talk about these specs a little bit more here. So the Exynos processor, this is what it's scored at with Android 14, One UI 6. This is the Exynos 1280, and it is the Mali G68 GPU. Again, micro SD card support, which is actually a big thing for a lot of people. And then 128 gigs of internal storage and 6 gigs of RAM here. You can see that single and multi-core score. You kind of see where it compares to, which is kind of on par with like the Poco X3 Pro, as you can see, from single core. What we at 2130, yeah, you can see, but the Poco is just way faster, and the A52, yeah. So yeah, it's a decent processor for the most part, and I'm gonna go ahead and launch PUBG here so I can kind of show you what it would look and feel like if you were trying to game on this thing. Alright, so we are in PUBG here, and let's see what kind of settings we get. Yeah, so not the best settings again, you guys, probably know where I'm going with this. This is why I like to buy old flagships, because you're not going to get the best settings. Oh, it looks we can't even go to HD. So the max settings is balance high. Yeah, definitely, doesn't feel as smooth as 60 frames for sure. I mean, it's playable. It's not glitching and lagging all over the place, but definitely nowhere near as smooth as 90 frames, 60 frames. And the graphics don't really look all that great. But, for somebody who just does not care about gaming, like if you come in here, you can absolutely play a match if you're just trying to kill some time. But competitively, no, I would definitely go with an older flagship. I don't think there's any reason to get this phone for gaming. But for let me turn this down. For casual stuff like Subway Surf, it was actually doing really good with that. So like little casual games that don't demand too much GPU, CPU power, you can definitely get away with getting a phone like this. But I'm sure like I'll have to stress it as well too with multitasking and stuff like that, and see how this processor handles it. But so far for gaming, it's exactly what I would expect. It's pretty much below average. All right, let's check out One UI and see if we got everything in here. It's very basic stuff. It looks like we don't have any of that, flagship stuff. It's just your basic toggles for the most part. Yeah, so everything is it's pretty much like the basic version of One UI, which is not bad. It's actually, I'm just happy that it's pretty smooth actually. Let's test out the speaker at max volume. The speakers actually sound very good, actually really, really good actually. Yeah, I really like the speaker quality. It's loud. The top speaker is pretty loud. It doesn't sound bad. It sounds better than the OnePlus 12R that we had. These speakers sound really good, so I'm actually pretty impressed with that. The fingerprint scanner situation is the physical one, and I think it's just awesome. I wish they would put these in the flagship phones or the mid-range phones. I think this is just a way better way to get into your phone. It feels way more natural, to me at least. Like it might not feel as luxury as the in-display one, but I mean this one just feels natural just to get in your phone like this. I absolutely love it. It's really fast too. All right, so let's check out the cameras in. You have a 50 megapixel main lens on here, which is really nice. And then you also have an 8 megapixel ultra wide. It's got the 2 megapixel macro. It shoots in 4K 30. And then you have a 13 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 1080 30. All right, so basically the shots on here. Well, before we get to the shots, let me walk you through the actual, modes. There's a fun mode on here, with the filters, your video. And then your food, your pro mode, your macro mode. Let's actually take a little macro shot here. See how close it, it gets pretty close actually. But yeah, those are your modes for the most part here. So the photos themselves are actually pretty decent. I actually was not, that disappointed with the photo quality. Some of it kind of surprised me in really good lighting. Like my indoor shots, if I'm under like the really good lighting, I was pretty impressed. Yeah, the shots were not bad at all, but I could definitely tell the difference between like this and, a older flagship. I can tell the dynamic range isn't as good. The detail, when you're zooming in, you're gonna lose quite a bit of detail. Color sometimes can be a little bit off. The zoom shots are virtually, not there, but standard stills, actually, I mean, you can't look at this and say that these aren't decent photos. So yeah, I actually really like the cameras. The video was somewhat solid. as well too. Again, the same issue, lacking dynamic range. And then with these phones, you know, you kind of take them out of any good lighting situation, they can kind of become a little bit soft as well too. But overall, I was actually pretty impressed. I thought it did way better than I was expecting it to. Now, lastly, this phone has a 25-watt charging speed on it, and it's got a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, and I suspect that battery life is going to be really good on here. Again, I haven't been really using it for that much longer, you know, that long, but I think battery life is going to be solid on here. So overall, with this phone, I'm pretty impressed with it. Would I recommend it over an old flagship? No, but would I recommend it to somebody who just refuses to buy an old flagship? You want something new, you want a headphone jack, SD card support. I think you could probably get the Galaxy A34 though. Honestly, you can I'm gonna do that comparison for you guys, because this phone is kind of awkward to me, because the A34, let me look it up real quick. The A34, yeah, you can get the A34 close to the same price, about the same price, $250. I would just get that instead of this. So that's why I said this is kind of a weird phone to me. The way they priced it. So if you can find one for I would say under $200, like $150, $180. Yeah, because it's just too close to the A34. But I'll get into those comparisons later. But the phone itself, it's a pretty decent phone. So what do you guys think? I'll catch you guys in the next one.